Good morning, everyone.
I'm Yates.
I'm Yardley.
And I'm Thatcher.
And we're giving our mom a well-deserved break for the evening.
It's Monday, May 12th, 2025, and this is a special Mother's Day edition of the AM Update.
They stormed the gate.
Nothing happened other than the chaos that they created themselves.
The mayor of Newark arrested amid a clash between ICE officials and Democrat lawmakers, with DHS saying more charges could be on the way.
Pope Leo delivers his first Sunday address calling for peace around the world.
If there is a successful citizen-led referendum petition that is able to gather the requisite number of signatures, our government will respect the democratic process and include that question on the 2026 provincial referendum ballot as well.
Could Alberta ditch Canada and become the 51st state? All that and more coming up in just a moment on your AM Update.
Tax day may have passed, but for millions of Americans, the real trouble is just beginning. If you missed the April 15th deadline or still owe back taxes, the IRS is ramping up enforcement, and every day you wait might make things worse. With over 5,000 new tax liens filed daily and tools like property seizures, bank levies, and wage garnishments, you don't want to mess around, okay? The good news is there's still time for Tax Network USA to help. Self-employed or a business owner, even if your books are a mess, they've got it covered. Tax Network USA specializes in cleaning up financial chaos and getting you back on track fast. Even after the deadline, it's not too late to regain control. Your consultation is completely free, and acting now could stop penalties, threatening letters, and surprise levies before they escalate. Call 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/Megyn. You may have missed April 15th, but you haven't run out of options. Let Tax Network USA help before the IRS makes the next move.
The Department of Homeland Security investigating a chaotic Friday incident at a New Jersey detention facility involving ICE officials, members of Congress, and the Democrat mayor of Newark. 3 Democrat lawmakers, Representatives Bonnie Watson Coleman, Rob Menendez, and LaMonica McIver, arriving at Delaney Hall Detention Center in Newark, seeking a tour of the facility. Mayor Ras Baraka, a vocal critic and frequent protester of the privately run facility, also on the scene. What happened next is a he said, she said between the Democrat officials and Homeland Security. Congresswoman LaMonica McIver describing the visit as a matter of routine oversight.
Is the reason why we were there in the first place, to have a tour of this facility that had just opened up on May 1st. It had over 100 detainees. We were getting reports prior to our tour that children were there. We did not know the status of the facility or the status of the detainees. And so that is why we showed up there to do our job as members, and New Jerseyans count on us to do our job. Immigration has been something that's in the back doors, in the backyards of New Jersey, and it's our jobs to make sure everything is running properly at this facility.
Mayor Baraka was denied entry by Homeland Security, but according to interim U.S. Attorney for New Jersey, Alina Habba, the mayor allegedly ignored multiple warnings to leave the facility. Tensions began to escalate. DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin telling CNN the officials then stormed the facility.
That these members of Congress, including the mayor as well, and a mob of protesters, as there was a bus full of detainees going through the gate, they stormed the gate and actually entered the first security checkpoint. This put law enforcement at risk, and this actually put the detainees as well at risk.
ICE later releasing body camera footage showing Congresswoman McIver appearing to physically engage with a law enforcement officer. That video is available at megynkelly.com. The mayor arrested at the scene and charged with trespassing, released later that evening without bond. Congresswoman Watson Coleman and Congressman Rob Menendez, son of disgraced former Senator Bob Menendez, laying the blame for the escalation on law enforcement.
But there's no reason for it. Nothing happened other than the chaos that they created themselves. If anything, we were pushed and shoved and found in a very vulnerable situation.
Over 20 armed individuals for 3 members of Congress and 1 mayor. That's an act of intimidation that's meant to silence not just the mayor, not just the 3 of us, but everyone who's concerned about what's happening in this country right now.
DHS's McLaughlin saying the members of Congress may face charges.
Are you suggesting that members of Congress will be arrested who were there yesterday?
This is an ongoing investigation, and that is definitely on the table.
The 3 members of Congress were ultimately provided a tour of the facility on that day. Congresswoman Coleman Watson saying the conditions, quote, aren't bad, it's clean, they're feeding them.
President Trump departing this week for the first international working visit of his second administration. The president set to visit Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates on a Middle East swing focusing primarily on business development and economic cooperation. Take a listen to Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt on Friday from the briefing room.
President Trump will return to re-emphasize his continued vision for a proud, prosperous, and successful Middle East, where the United States and Middle Eastern nations are in cooperative relationships and where extremism is defeated in place of commerce and cultural exchanges. This trip ultimately highlights how we stand on the brink of the golden age for both America and the Middle East, united by a shared vision of stability, opportunity, and mutual respect.
Mr. Trump breaking with tradition, choosing Saudi Arabia for the first working visit as opposed to more historic allies like the UK, Mexico, or Canada. With this week's trip, the Saudis launching a Saudi-U.S. investment forum, with more than 2,000 delegates expected to attend, including Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, BlackRock CEO Larry Fink, and White House AI and crypto czar David Sachs. Despite the White House's desire to focus primarily on business and investments, the trip comes amid rising tensions on multiple fronts. The Trump team is in active negotiations on a new Iran nuclear deal, supported by the Saudis and the other Gulf states who would like to see diplomatic efforts prevail over military force. Qatar also mediating talks between Hamas and Israel, seeking a resolution to conflict is a major priority of the Trump administration. Many more deals to be discussed, including the Saudis' desire to develop their own civilian nuclear energy capabilities. Last week, President Trump teasing a major announcement ahead of the trip.
We're going to have a very, very big announcement to make, like as big as it gets, and I won't tell you on what, but it's going to, and it's very positive. I'd tell you if it was negative or positive. I can't keep that out. It is really, really positive. And that announcement will be made either Thursday or Friday or Monday before we leave. But it'll be one of the most important announcements that have been made in many years about a certain subject, very important subject.
The Associated Press, citing anonymous sources, says President Trump is expected to announce the U.S. will rename the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Arabia. The reports, not yet officially confirmed, though if true, would be a snub to the Iranians, who see the current name as a symbol of their regional influence. In advance of the trip, ABC's Jonathan Karl made waves yesterday with his exclusive reporting that the Trump administration is poised to accept a, quote, palace in the sky, end quote, from the Qatari government. According to ABC, the Trump administration will accept a, quote, super luxury Boeing 747 jumbo jet for use as the new Air Force One until shortly before he leaves office, at which time ownership of the plane will be transferred to the Trump Presidential Library Foundation. ABC continuing, quote, the highly unusual, unprecedented arrangement is sure to raise questions about whether it is legal for the Trump administration and ultimately the Trump Presidential Library Foundation to accept such a valuable gift from a foreign power.
Under Article 1, Section 9, Clause 8 of the Constitution, quote, no person holding any office of trust shall, without the consent of Congress, accept any present or emolument, end quote. An emolument is a fee for a service. Attorney General Pam Bondi claims the gift does not violate the Constitution because it is not conditioned on an official act and it is not being given to an individual, but to the U.S. government and then to a Presidential Library Foundation. A Qatari government spokesperson pushing back on the story saying, quote, the matter remains under review by the respective legal departments and no decision has been made.
A Wall Street Journal report from early May revealed that President Trump was so frustrated with Boeing's failure to deliver an on-time and on-budget order for 2 new Air Force One planes, placed during his first administration, but delayed until at least 2035. He instead commissioned a smaller U.S. defense contractor to outfit a plane formerly used by the Qatari government. ABC was first to reveal the plane would be a gift, not a purchase. The Qatari plane would only serve as an interim solution until Boeing eventually completes the order, or until Mr. Trump leaves office, taking it with him.
Coming up, Pope Leo's first Sunday address from the Vatican, and talk of a referendum brewing in Alberta. Could Canada's oil-rich province become America's 51st state?
As President Trump is settling into his new administration, one of the top Democrats in Congress aiming to undermine the Trump agenda is Democrat Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois. And according to our sponsor, the Electronic Payments Coalition, Senator Durbin has a new plan, a government takeover of your credit card. Today, Americans have thousands of choices in credit cards, but they say Senator Durbin's plan will result in less competition and less security, which means more risk for your credit and your identity. You can learn more for yourself at guardyourcard.org, and you could consider telling your senators to stop Dick Durbin's government takeover of your credit card before it's too late.
Pope Leo XIV making his first Sunday address from the Vatican since being chosen to head the Catholic Church. The Pope calling for peace around the world, saying we are facing the tragedy of a, quote, Third World War in pieces. The Pontiff, speaking in Italian, calling attention to the war in Ukraine.
I carry in my heart the suffering of the beloved Ukrainian people. May whatever is possible be done to reach an authentic, true and lasting peace as quickly as possible. May all the prisoners be freed. May children return to their families.
Pope Leo also praising the newly announced ceasefire between nuclear-armed India and Pakistan, following escalating tensions in a series of cross-border attacks. Pope Leo also commenting on the war in Gaza.
I'm deeply hurt by what is happening in the Gaza Strip. May a ceasefire immediately come into effect. May humanitarian aid be allowed to the civilian population, and may all hostages be freed.
The Pope will hold a media availability later today ahead of Sunday's papal inauguration. And speaking of Gaza, President Trump with some good news. Eden Alexander, an American held hostage by Hamas, is coming home. President Trump calling this a step taken in good faith toward the U.S., and a first of the final steps, quote, to put an end to this very brutal war.
Though Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney is adamant that his country will never become the 51st state, some Albertans are not ruling it out. The oil-rich Canadian province growing increasingly angry, frustrated with federal policies seen as stifling Alberta's oil industry. The Alberta Premier, the Canadian version of Governor, Danielle Smith, laying out her constituents' concerns last week.
Our province has contributed hundreds of billions of dollars more to the federal treasury for use in other parts of the country than we'll ever receive back in benefits. We have allowed this to occur because, quite frankly, we know how blessed our province is with an endowment of natural resources that no other country on earth possesses. And we want all of our friends, families, and fellow Canadians across the country to benefit from it. We don't ask for special treatment or handouts. We just want to be free to develop and export that incredible wealth of resources we have for the benefit of our families and future generations.
The Premier also announcing the creation of a negotiating team to engage with Prime Minister Carney's administration. Premier Smith sending a veiled threat ahead of negotiations. While she may not personally support an independence referendum, Alberta's government won't stand in the way if its people demand one.
To be clear from the outset, our government will not be putting a vote on separation from Canada on the referendum ballot. However, if there is a successful citizen-led referendum petition that is able to gather the requisite number of signatures requesting such a question to be put on a referendum, our government will respect the democratic process and include that question on the 2026 provincial referendum ballot as well.
A new poll from a nonprofit organization, the Angus Reid Institute, showing 36% of Albertans support leaving Canada versus 60% who favor staying. In a recent rally supporting separation, some Albertans going as far as to urge their neighbors to write to the White House in support of joining the U.S. Alberta, one of Canada's western provinces, holds vast oil reserves, responsible for about 84% of Canada's total oil production.
That'll do it for your AM update.
I'm Yates.
I'm Yardley.
And I'm Thatcher.
And we hope you liked today's show because we had fun, right?
Yeah, I think it went well.
Yeah, same.
Tune in later for the Megyn Kelly Show.
Our mom will be doing that one, though.
Live on SiriusXM Triumph Channel 111 at noon East on youtube.com/Megyn Kelly and on all podcast platforms.